Hey everyone, it's been forever since I streamed last, and I mean forever. I am actually finally going to continue Final Fantasy XIV today. It has been a very long hot minute since I played this. So much so that last time I played was when I beat Endwalker. That's how long ago it was. It's been forever and a day. So as you can tell, I've just been sitting here in this chair forever and not really doing anything. So, but what we're actually going to do today is do some of the patch content. So I haven't actually touched the latest main scenario stuff, which is Newfound Adventure. I want to get to that because the new one is coming out soonish. I think like next week. I'm not exactly sure. And I wanted to get right in on it. So let's get started. Putting on a pot of tea, or a pot of tea, if however you want to say it. It looks in need of company. It rhymes. Let's get started. Azure, how lovely to see you. You're not in too much of a rush. I was about to make a pot of tea. Would you like a cup? Take a seat then, and I'll find us something to nibble on as well. Man, what is up with that shadow?
It's so much quieter these days without everyone around. Not that I'm pining for your return, you understand. I have my sources, and I know that each and every one of you is doing well and keeping busy with your endeavors. Meanwhile, I'm left with a surplus of free time and the question of how to make the most of it. What about you? Any plans for the immediate future?
Well, I'm still technically mulling it over. It's been half a year, but a grand new adventure, of course. I'll come up with something.
Traveling to the edge of existence and back wasn't enough? Well, if that's the case, I might have a suggestion for you. You've fought bravely and selflessly, helping those in need and saving our star from unimaginable threats. For your deeds, you've been hailed as the champion of Eorzea and a host of other incredible things. But why not put those titles aside for a while? Acquit yourself as a simple adventurer again and travel the world in search of wonder.
That's a great idea, but where to start?
Oh, with so many exciting places to choose from, it's hard to narrow it down. But I believe I have the perfect destination in mind. Thavner. That's where you should go next. I doubt you were able to squeeze in a proper tour of Radzat the last time you were there. What with the burning skies and rampaging monsters and so forth. And I'm sure Vritra would be pleased to see you. Then there's the bounty itself. The Empire's presence in the region was always a deterrent to exploration. So if you've a mind to sail that sea, now's your chance. Just think of all the new experiences you could have.
Tell me, have you been to the ruins beneath the waters of the Bounty? As the bearer of Azem's crystal, you may consider your duty to see at least that much.
Oh, I know that look. That's an adventurer ready to take on the world. In anticipation of an occasion like this, I was planning to gift you a new set of traveling clothes, but it's still a work in progress. Shouldn't take much longer now though, so sit tight and I'll have the last few bits sewn up before you can finish another cup of tea.
Make sure it has pockets.
Stitch in here and trim in there. Knot the threads with love and care. Just a little more to go. I'm sure you're still brimming with excitement. I am one with the needle. See how the fabric surrenders to my whims. Don't worry. I'll make sure the lining has plenty of pockets for all your little treasures. I swear adventurers are worse than children when it comes to hoarding every feather and leaf and animal hide they come across. Oh, we mustn't forget the waterproofing. Gods forbid you forget to disrobe before plunging into the sea, or a river, or a piping hot bath. Ah, you're awake.
Ooh,
My
big stretch.
apologies. I do get a little carried away with my sewing. You seem awfully cheerful. Pleasant dream? Or are you just looking forward to the next chapter of your grand saga? Either way, I promise to provide you with new apparel, and so I shall. If you'll accompany me to the Diamond Forge, we can put the finishing touches on your outfit. Shall we?
I do like the little title card. I wonder if they're actually going to go back and add those to all the old ones. Be kind of neat if they did, like add like a little bit of here's new content kind of going on. Maybe fix up a Realm Reborn's stuff in between with those. Maybe that might help a teeny little bit, so you like know when you hit the next part and not just be like, what is going on? Diamond Forge. It's been so long since I played this. Where is the Diamond Forge? It's up this way. I already know. There's so much stuff on the screen. Wow. Yeah, it's in this direction. I'm not that rusty. Pretty sure I still remember my 1, 2, 3 combo. Reserve as the artiste refines her piece into a masterpiece. No napping this time. I only need a moment. You'll see. A little more room in the shoulders. Open up the cuffs. A final adjustment to the hem. All done. Let's see how it looks on the mannequin. What do you think? Doesn't it just scream ready for a bold new adventure? Where's the pants? God, this is the most sarcastic clap you could have done. I'm so glad you approve. You outdone yourself, Tataru. Thank you. I wanted to say, well, so what do I owe you? I'm pretty sure I have the money for it. Oh, stop. You'll make me blush. If you really want to thank me, though, all I ask is that you wear this on your travels. Or at least anywhere lots of adventurers might gather. They'll look at you, a famous hero, and wonder, wherever did he purchase those stylish yet practical garments? And before you know it, hordes of new customers will be climbing over each other in order to place orders at the Towers Boutique. I can hear it now, the merry clink of gill overflowing from my coffers. Sweet music to my ears. Let's see, so tabard, fingerless gloves, boots, Wayfarer's ear cuff, and the necklace. That's pretty much just all glamour gear, but sure, I'll figure that out. I'm pretty sure I got the glamour stuff for it. Burgeoning merchant empires aside, you must be excited to start a fresh chapter of your life. New places to go, new people to meet. I often wonder how you remember all your experiences and exploits without taking at least a few notes. Well, maybe you should start doing just that. You'll never know when some odd past detail might become relevant. Or if one day you'll take a blow to the head and forget the better part of your past decade. Something to keep in mind in any case. Collection expanded the unending codex. So, an encyclopedia. It's nice, but you're missing a lot of content. Unless there's, oh, never mind. Yeah, you need to fill that up a bit. Unending Codex is now available under collection in the duty section of the main menu. New entries for prominent terms and characters will be added to the codex as you progress through the main scenario quest. So you could add like all of them now, right? So, okay. So do collection. Yeah, you need to add more to that. If you take a blow to the head, you're going to need to add way more to that. Bountiful Ruins. The former receptionist and sometimes intelligence gatherer of the Scions allow me to offer you a word of advice. Do not expect juicy rumors to simply fall into your lap. Adventurers rely on gossip, and the best place to look to pick up information are taverns and markets. At present, you only have the broad destination in mind. When you arrive in Thavnir, I suggest you explore your options at Mayreed's, how do you say that again? Mayreed's Mahane, the finest drinking establishment in Rods at Han. Charm the employees, and they'll not only point you in the direction of local tellers, and also share a few of the tricks for loosening their tongues. I really must be getting back to running my boutique. Kinda. Enjoy the journey, Azure, and may the fair fortune find you. She's gonna ruin her boutique by giving me free crap. Alright, so I want to put that on as a glamour. I gotta go to the inn for that. So I'll just do a little bit of a teleport. I could do a return. I'm gonna still have that set to New Gridania. Never change that. Probably should. I just said it as a glamour so I don't have to sit there and like redo each piece. Up, people. People. So many people on the screen, I kind of got confused for a second there. Let's see. Go through here again, so woo! I'll just do this from here. Alright, glamour dresser. Let's just kind of put you, yes, you, yes, you, yes, you, yes. Why was the earring not in there? Oh, wait. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Wayfarer, Wayfarer, Wayfarer. There you are. And boop. There we go. And then edit. Do I have any more? I do have more. All right, so I'll just kind of go for one of these. Let's see. Can I just... Okay, can you just do like a little copy? And whatever, I'll just do this. Wayfarer. Wayfarer. There was no pants for that, so I'll just go with this. Wayfarer, okay. And then I want the earring and the necklace. There we go. And save. Yes. All right. And then if I remember properly, I just hit glamour plate and then boop. And then apply. And then bam. Perfect. Got new stuff. All right, let's go here and bam. Okie dokie. It's nice to actually see this place when it's not like under constant terror, but that, I probably could have done that way sooner than I did. I remember that this place was really confusing, so map it is. Did I ever use all these? Yes, I did. I'm still missing the airship landing and that one, but yeah. I think I am anyway. Welcome to Mayreed's Mayhain. Oh, hello. I did not recognize you at first. Really? Are you here alone? Let me find you a table. Ruins beneath the bounty. Would you be speaking of the sunken treasure vault? We have one regular, a historian in fact, who could tell you about it. Ah, there he is, Professor Jolene. I thought I saw him coming. Although a somewhat private sort, the professor is quick to befriend those who share his fondness for the Mayhain's unique beverages. Offer him any drink from our selection, he should happily share everything he knows about this vault you seek, and a few other odd bits besides. So share water, got it. Whatever you buy from him is on the house, by the way. If Mayreed found out I took coin from the Thabnir savior, there's no the other, she would have me scrubbing pods for a week. All right, so most expensive drink, got it, water. Following event cannot be skipped. I wish to cancel any pending duty found here. Yep, that's fine. Probably means it's gonna be long. And what may I do for you, my Eorzean friend? Yeah, I can talk today. Let's see. Oh, just a friendly chat. How about a drink? Well, I certainly wouldn't say no to a drink freely offered. Here we are. One of Mayreed's finest. Enjoy. Ah, lovely. It's water! That was very kind of you, sir. But I know when I'm being softened up. What is it that you want from me? Oh, chasing down that old tale, are you? It does seem to appeal to adventurers at heart. Now, where to begin? Might I assume you're Alzadal? It was the the Ori tribe which sailed to Thabnir from the mainland, and a key figure in history in Razat Han. There's so many words, I swear. It's been months and I already remember all the words. His decision to aid the Akrasadara is what ultimately won them the war against the Azure. thus allowing our predecessors to lay the foundation for this thriving city-state. A truly fascinating stories, however, concern his grandson Asdal III, who was known for his deeds as satrapa in Razathan earlier days. Some attest that this man traveled to another world entirely and returned with glittering riches. Others that he brokered an alliance with a certain worm of the first blood. Then there was the tale of Sunken Fall, the one that you seem most curious about. According to the legend, Asdal III claimed a small island somewhere in the middle of the bounty. There he built a structure reaching clear to the bottom of the sea, a deep and secret storehouse, and locked all his worldly wealth within. In centuries since, whenever a natural disaster or hardship befell Razathan, folk would remember that tale of hidden treasure. Hardy souls would then set out to claim their fortune, but precious few ever made it home. Would you like to hear more? Apologies, I might have a slight tickle in. Oh, my cup appears to be empty. Another round, please. But not for me, I'll have some water. I see we reached an understanding. You're a sharp one, adventurer. I only saved the world, but you know. Another for the professor. Today was a splendid day to visit the Maine. Newest drink of gusto. Where were we? Ah, yes. Those who did return from seeking the treasure vault flatly refused to speak of what they saw. Did this discourage others? Nay, quite the opposite. Such accounts only served to feed the legend, and the golden lure grew stronger than ever before. That reminds me of something Asma was saying. Asma's a fellow connoisseur of spirituous potables. Yes, he is. Anyways, he was saying that one of his acquaintances went after the treasure himself, and hasn't been seen since he set sail. I hear, but he did have, no, I can say no more. You seem a generous sort. What kind of man would I be to encourage what is clearly a foolhardy quest? My word sent you to your death. I could never live with myself. I'm no stranger to peril. Is that so? Perhaps it's your turn to tell a tale then. What manners of dangers have you faced? The very edge of existence. For anyone else, I struggle to believe it, but I recognize you now. You're the hero of the final of the days. How did you not recognize me? A drink. I need another drink to settle my nerves. Nihil, more of the same, if you please. As you wish, but this one is on your coin, Professor. Drinks another cup dry. Anyway, you being who you are, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to share a little more. His friend Asma, he was desperate to buy a treasure map. Wanted to show the way to the entrance of the vault. Seems he could only get from some merchant. What's his name? Is it the shoe puff? With all the shoes going on? I forget. Let's drink a toast shoe, my new best friend. Real, more drinks. Signal for water. Your drink. Ah, marvelous. I am parched. That was water. Did you tell her to bring me water? That's still probably for the best. Very kind of you, really. My head will certainly thank you in the morning. I seem to have Oliver indulged. I am put in the mind of words of Master Zalzan. Be wary how much you drink. Be wary how much of the drink you swallow, lest it swallow you. Forgive me, I subject you to no more of these unseemly antics. You want to speak with Fazama? Well, as I said, we share a taste for the Mahane's finer spirits. We probably came in as we were talking. I wish you fortune in finding your fortune. Here to have learned all that gentleness to share regarding the undersea vault. To find out more, you need to locate a man by the name of Asma. I could do that. Right there, found him. I have the power of being able to see people's names above their heads. Yes, I am Asma. And who might you be? How do you not know? All true, I'm afraid. My friend took his ship out in search of Alzal's legacy, and I've been watching for his sails ever since. I tried to dissuade him, of course, but he refused to listen. All I could do was talk about finding that vault. and that look in his eyes, and it wasn't common gold or jewels he lusted after. He was hunting Azal the Third's otherworldly horde, and his ambition would not be denied. I see it in you too, that appetite for the mysterious and the unknown. But I'll not attempt to turn you from your path. I know all too well the futility of that endeavor. So I'll give you what my friend told me, how he convinced the merchant in the bazaar to give him the rough location of the vault's entrance. It seems this merchant, one Zalal, I believe, is selling a map which shows the exact route. My friend's purse was too light for the exorbitant price. With what meager wealth he had, he instead paid to learn that there are ruins on a small island somewhere in the bounty, and within those ruins hides a path to the vault deep below. If you truly intend on seeing Ozdal's treasure, I suggest you put your affairs in order. I wish things were different, but I do not believe my friend is ever coming home.
Please, Ashal, please! You must let me have that treasure map!
What's all this about?
My mother and father were slaughtered by monsters. My baby sister, still too young to fend for herself. Can you spare us no kindness?
So, you hope to find your fortune? And what? You expect me to surrender my wares for pity's sake? What have you to offer in payment? As I thought. Come back when you've more than rags to your name. This is no mere treasure map. It is a guide to the vaults of Arzadal III, one of the great satraps of Radzat Han, and a direct descendant of Alzadal Khan.
A map to Alzadal's legacy?
So he says. A fake, I'd wager.
This is no fake. The parchment is marked with an arcane glyph of passage. You may find the ruins hidden in the bounty, but you won't be setting foot inside without this in your possession. A priceless artifact it is, discovered amongst the rubble in the aftermath of the final days, and lovingly restored by yours truly. This map is the key to fabulous riches, and I'll be the king of fools to simply give it away. Be glad I am no such king boy. Your scrawny-eyed had never returned with that treasure alive.
Oh, cruel fate! Why must you tempt me with wealth I am powerless to claim? How I shall envy the one who purchases that precious map! Whatever they pay will be but pittance against the golden hoards they stand to uncover.
What have you, sir? Fighting man of your stature would surely relish the challenge of recovering Alzadal's lost fortune.
A fortune, you say?
If I had but the strength to seize that treasure, my starving sister would never want for food.
I'll take it. Will this cover the price? Well met, my friend. Someone is dressed for adventure. But why Favner of all places? Knowing you, I suspect there's more to your plans than sightseeing and shopping. Ruins beneath the Bounty. Curious. And here I've acquired a map to just such a site.
With that sale, I do believe I've earned the rest of the day off. Thank you for your patronage, sir, but if you'll excuse me.
You needn't mind us.
And now I fleece one of the heroes of the final days. Pray the sisters were looking elsewhere.
This map may or may not be genuine. Either way, we'll need a ship to find out for sure.
I just love the fact that it's Justinian that bought the map because you know that he overpays for everything. So, yeah. Never took you for a treasure hunter.
Lest you misunderstand, I seek the treasure not for myself. If such a fortune truly exists, then it could help ease the struggles of those who lost their loved ones in the final days. I hope to do for Thavnir what you and Alphino did for the Alamegans when you recovered the Mad King's trove. Come now. You know Alphino needs little encouragement when it comes to recounting the tales of your shared exploits. Speaking of precocious lads, that boy in the bazaar was clearly an accomplice of the merchant. Suppose his role was to draw the attention of the crowd and add weight to the merchant's bold claims. Transparent act for the most part. It was not all mummery. The need to provide for his sister rang true enough. Thus, if some portion of the profits end up in that waif's pockets, then I will consider it money well spent. Whether the map leads us to the vault or not. You are coming along, yes?
Shall we split the expenses?
I appreciate the concern, but one thing I've learned from my time with the Silence is how to better manage my coin purse. Now, let's see about securing a vessel.
Alright, one little thing before. I love the fact that it's like Estinian added to the codex. Is like, I didn't know who Estinian was up until this point. There's one thing I want to do really quick. I want to check something on my stream just to make sure. Alright, that's fine. I can work with that. Okie dokie, let's continue. You will recall I spoke of visiting Thavnir at Vitra's request. Well, he finally invited me to a feast, and he made his proposal once I was too full of Hannish delights to refuse. He wishes me to train the Radiant host in lance work. But that is a tale for another time. What we need now is a merchant or trawler of a ship fit for open seas. Asha is a fisherman by trade, yes? You should head the Acule. I always forget how to say the one and say if you can help us. All right. Make a warp here and then just make the rest of my way there. And knowing me, you get on a mount. Yep, still can't fly. Wow, I really need to do something about that. I think I'm still missing some in Shadowbringers. Not too big of a deal. I'll just drive a car. It's funny looking at it, but I really need to get the flying stuff. Shortcut. Speaking of, might as well get this while I'm in the area and I can actually see it. All right, and down we go. Wasn't too far of a trek. My friends, what brings you to our humble village? So you need a seaworthy vessel to seek those ruins. Considering it was your deeds which allowed us to return to fishing, I should think everyone would be glad for a chance to repay the favor. Wait here and I'll have a boat stocked and ready for you in no time at all. Have you noticed our little shadow? He's been following us since we left the city. We see you there, boy. Show yourself. Ah, it is you. Do you know how far out of our way that we walked so that you not cross paths with some wild beast? I used a car. I'm sorry, sir, but aren't you the heroes that saved Avnir? You are, I know you are. And I've gone and cheated you. Work was all, you see. The map merchant. It wasn't my job to pay the pleading orphan and convince the crowd his wares are worth the price he asks. I'm ashamed of what I've done and beg for your forgiveness. Now for you, my sister and I never would have, well, we'd be. Now, if I knew your game and I paid the price willingly. Paid the price willingly. Wah! A fortunate purchase as it turns out, for my friend here was seeking those very ruins. Your kind overlooked the wrong I have done you. But there is more you need to know. The map you brought is very real, as it is the island it shows. I overheard Zahal selling the information to another customer. He told that man where he needed to search, about the ruins, about the vault, about everything. Then the man set out to find his fortune, never to return. You cannot go alone to that place. You should have more friends with you, maybe even a whole army. Do not doubt the ruins hold danger, but I assure you, between the two of us, there is a little we cannot overcome. Please, I cannot bear the thought of... Oh, wow, all these are so bad. Okay. Might need a hand moving the treasure. Assuming we find any, still it may prove wise to bring some companions along all the same. Any ideas on whom to approach? The signs have scattered far and wide since our last gathering. I like how it's like, 2 people, 2 people, 2 people. Y'shtola. Let's see. Let's see. Tank, healer, red mage. Anything. I don't think it really matters, but I think this is the appropriate choice. Little Lord Aphino and his sister? Were they not bound for Garlemald? Yeah, far more important matters to attend to than delving for trinkets. Thank her to Eorzea then? Thank her to Eorzea, eh? Those two would answer our call, certainly, but they left the Rising Stones with a definitive task in mind, and love to interrupt their self-appointed mission. Satya and Kryle? Kryle may have hands full rebuilding the students, but if you reach out to Kryle, he will certainly leave at the invitation. Well, that set your mind at ease. Yes, if that man is as strong as you. Is he, though? Strong, I mean? Did they really just do the "is he, though" meme? I mean, hello? What is your name, boy? Merad, sir. Is that Mayrid? Mayrod? I don't know. Need voice acting for that one. Oh, Merad, your life is yours to live as you will, but I suggest to find a more honest trade if you truly wish to keep your sister safe. I cannot talk those lines sometimes. I'm not proud of what I do. What choice do I have? We need to eat, and everyone's too busy rebuilding their own lives to bother two grubby orphans. Wait, boy. I didn't take this roundabout road just to see you up in some creature's belly. Let me walk you back to the city gates. Thank you, sir. Call me Estinian. Who gave us the quest reward there? I shall leave you to recruit. He'll appreciate the invitation that much more, I'm sure. As I recall, he was based around the annex. So in there I'll be able to point you in the right direction. Let's be off too, Mayrid. Do me a favor and don't stray from the path. Alright. And away we go! Of all the things to forget, I could warp. That's fine, but I could just do this instead. This works too. Look who it is. Welcome back. What might the students do for you? Yes, he's in the main hall with Mr. Kryle. They've been holed up in there for days. By all means, go and give them an excuse to take a break.
Ah, Urgica, my good man. Would you be so kind as to...
Oh, isn't this a pleasant surprise?
I wish you had sent word ahead. I thought I was having visions for a moment there.
How's the restoration of the students coming along?
Slow and steady. Raha and I have been compiling old records of the students' activities. We were able to locate several accounts in the archives of Numenon, but the bulk of our documents was lost along with the Isle of Fowl.
But what brings you to the annex, my friend? Surely you haven't come all this way just to watch us shuffle dusty papers around? The treasure vault of Azure III.
And you're looking for companions to join you on this expedition. I would dearly love to accompany you, of course, but I'm afraid I'm committed to another task. On the subject of which, I had hoped to ask for your assistance. Then again, it's not so urgent that it can't wait until you've returned. You should go, Raha. I'll stay here and mind the shop, as it were.
Are you sure? I'd hate to leave you short-handed.
I'm sure. Just try to be back before too many moons have passed.
Well, I guess we're off on another adventure already. Have you asked anyone else to come along? Then might I suggest we invite your Stola? Ever since the Scions disbanded, she spent most of her time cloistered within the Great Google Library, hoping to piece together a method to traverse the rift. It would seem, however, that whatever wisdom she sought there was not to be found. She arrived in Charlian the other day. We spoke briefly before she began her search of Numenor. Considering what you've told us of Alzadal's extraordinary feats, I do believe your Stola would be more than interested to hear what you have to say. Splendid! Then let us head to the archives at once.
Wait, before you go. I have another potential member to volunteer, if you've room to spare. Eorzea. He sent the students a request for materials, you see. Treatises on the architecture of treasure vaults and the like. From what I can gather, the Loporrits are looking to make improvements to their own creation and wish to learn more about how we build things down here. So, why not take Eorzea with you? Let him study Alzadal's legacy firsthand.
None can deny the benefit of seeing something with your own eyes. If our expedition leader has no objections, I say we extend Eorzea an invitation once we've spoken with your Stola.
Safe travels, you two. But don't forget, I'd still like your help with that other matter I mentioned.
Right. Then it's off to the library.
Never in my days will I ever hear anyone say that with such enthusiasm. To the library. Am I dumb? Where's the thing yet? Oh, okay. Wrong map. I remember the buttons being that small. There we go. Hey, it's pudding way. This pudding was not needed. I like pudding. It is needed. Sometimes I wonder how they beat me there.
I've never known your Stola to doze off in the middle of research before.
Close my eyes for one moment. Ow! How long have you two been here?
Catching up on some light reading.
Something to that effect. I must have been studying for 2-3 days straight before exhaustion finally claimed me. As you know, I've been researching ways to travel from the source to one of its reflections. Well, looking for hints at least. I don't expect to find a simple set of instructions tucked away in some dark corner of the library. So I've been skimming through the stacks, hoping to uncover even a partial mention of any similar feats in the past. A means to travel between worlds exists, and you can be sure I will find a way to employ it. So I promised Runa, but 'twould seem I've set myself a nigh impossible task.
You needn't be so hard on yourself. The leap I made with the Crystal Tower was not achieved in an afternoon. It was the culmination of a collective effort spanning generations.
Oh, you think me discouraged? I assure you, 'tis quite the opposite. A daunting challenge and the time to sink my teeth into it. I feel like a fresh-faced student again.
A scholar in her element.
Indeed. Was there something else you wish to ask of me? Al-Zadal is no minor figure in Harnish history, and much is known about his family. But this is the first I've heard of a descendant surviving a trip to another world. If those tales are true, then he may have left behind some clue as to how it was accomplished. An invitation to delve into one of the world's lingering mysteries. As if I could refuse. And whence do we embark upon this expedition?
Akyali, by ship. But before that, we thought to extend an invitation to Eorzea as well. He was in Thalmazane, last we heard.
Then by all means, let us recruit him, and be on our way.
These things are probably mad that you forgot about the book pile. Yeah, I am not walking that. Okie dokie. Wait, did it just... I just realized that I clicked on the thing and it worked me to the... I should be okay, right? Oh, no, I'm good. I'm still good. I could just walk this. This very long walk. Where we're going, we go through doors. Again, they get here before me.
Ah, our illustrious champion. Cloaked in the mantle of the common explorer, fame set aside in thy pursuit of simple adventure. I am told a new expedition is in the offing.
Wasn't Thancred with you?
He left to attend to some personal errand, but should be returning ere long.
You've been keeping yourself busy, I trust?
True to our plan, Thancred and I embarked upon a pilgrimage of sorts, with an eye for gauging the state of those lands through which we passed. Our travels were interrupted, however, by a request for aid from our befurred lunar allies. As you may recall, the Loperids had been seeking new purpose for the moon, another role through which it might serve to benefit mankind. The Forum hath been working to advise them in this endeavor, but I return to offer mine own counsel.
And this has what to do with treasure vaults, exactly?
Ah, you have learned of my predicament from Mistress Cryle. I know not whence they acquired such knowledge, but the Loperids now stand convinced that adventurers delight in treasure hunts. Thus, with their newly built wonderland of riches and mystery, do they hope to entice all manner of daring delvers to the moon. So earnest and innocent was their desire to bring joy to the world that I found myself powerless to refuse them my cooperation. But what of you, my friends? Why are you come to Labyrinthos? Fascinating. This is indeed a most fortuitous opportunity. I should be honored to accept thine invitation. How long hath it been, I wonder, when last our actions were not impelled by fate or desperation?
Aye. Though I cherish the Scion's accomplishments, 'tis pleasant to not have the weight of the world upon our shoulders for a change.
Counting Estinian, we number 5 now, yes? Without knowing what traps or perils await unwary feet, we may be wise to refrain from recruiting others.
I agree. Between us, we should have the skills to handle whatever situation may arise. Shall we be on our way?
What, no time to spare a word for the grizzled old bard?
All is well, I trust?
A wasted trip, I'm afraid. I'd hoped to catch up with a former mentor while you parleyed with the rabbits, but it seems our paths were not to cross.
How was your pilgrimage?
Having an astrologian beside you on the road is surprisingly convenient. And it doesn't hurt that he's making strides with his light-hearted banter. In any case, as we made our way around Eorzea, we saw that much of the continent was in various stages of chaos. A certain amount of disorder is to be expected. The final days are over, and the people no longer have a common threat binding them together. That's the thing with these fledgling troubles, eh? You need to keep an eye out, lest they mature into full-grown headaches. So, for what reason have so many esteemed personages seen fit to gather? Beneath the waters of the Bounty, you say? I see you've already stolen away my traveling partner with the promise of unexplored ruins and scholarly glory.
Nay, 'tis not for mine own indulgence, but rather the fulfillment of my commitment to the Loporrits.
Ah, of course. And if you have a Stinian rounding out your group, you'll likely have all the members you need.
Feeling left out? I could put in a good word for you, if you like.
We may have been released from our obligations, but I'll never be free of that merciless wit of yours, will I? In all seriousness, 'tis best I sit this one out. Too many former scions consorting with one another might be seen as a cause for concern in certain quarters. I'll return to my usual reconnaissance and scout out the situation in the Far East. Feel free to share if you come across any interesting revelations. Till we meet again.
Shall we also hasten our departure? Sir Estinian will wonder what hath become of us.
I like how we walked off and then just kind of puts me right back here. Yeah, we now have a group that is good for pretty much all situations. So yeah, let's go back to Akali. That's kind of closer, but maybe a little bit, not really. So where we go? Times like this, I wish they were just slightly faster. I still get aggroed by them, really. I send you to Group Graha and you return with an entire survey party. Well, Machi is boat is sturdy enough to carry us all. What he means is we are grateful for the use of one of your precious fishing vessels. I'm more than glad for a chance provided. I only ask that you take care to steer clear of the reefs and the shallows there. I will keep an eye out. I could get food or not food, I'll just take the money. Azadal III. I confess I am somewhat embarrassed that the tale of his journey to another world escaped my notice. Could it be more than simple folklore? And what of his treasure he supposedly brought back? This undersea vault may hold relics from another reflection. My friends, we should temper our expectations. The map doth promise ruins, but beyond what we know, not what we'll find. It's starting to rain, not until we find it, aye? So let's dispense with the conjecture and set sail for the vault. I'm gonna kill them to like just have the song go like through part of it as well. Let's see here. Where did they give me in the current party lineup? Why is it like this? Why did they move it to the center? I mean insufficient item level. Are you kidding me? Okay, what? All right, we're gonna go through that concept again. All right, let's see here. All right, so they're gonna give me that. But I need to increase my item level. All right, let's see. What is low here? We got 560, 560, 560, 560, 560, 560, 548. It's the earring. One earring and then the bracelet. Oh, and my ring is garbage. All right. Okay, then. This is fine. I will take care of that really quick. Let's just teleport somewhere. Are you kidding me? Every time there's a new dungeon, it's like, your item level's too low. All right, let's see. Where is the thingy at in this area? Down, there it is, right down there. That's a wall. All right, item level, what can I do here? Let's see, I need better rings for sure. So let's check out the rings. Rings. 580. It's okay. How much do those cost? Not bad. I'll do that. And what's the difference between you and you? Nothing too special. I'll just buy 2 of them. There we go. All right. Now that puts me at item level what? Okay, let's just check it out. Duty finder. It's wow, it's been so long that I forget how the duty finder works. Let's see. No, wait, I don't want to do it by duty finder. I actually want to do it by the thing. How do I do that again? Duty finder, trusts. There we go. I can't click it through this menu. Okay, then. All right. Hold on. Let me go back to it really quick again. What do we got here? Duty finder, duty support, duty support. There we go. Aha! Figured it out. Register for duties. All right, let's see. Good to go. Just making sure I'm keeping up with this because it's been a hot minute since I've actually tanked. played this game in general. So yeah, let's just keep this up. All right, good to go. I kind of got hit by it, but not really.
This will hurt.
And there we go. Keep up with the defensive and the offensive and all the offensives. Making sure that's working because I was hitting my mouse 4 again and again and again. It wasn't working. Good job. Bridge me, please. Hello there. Ambu Jam. long as we keep up that curing, I'm good to go. That's gonna hurt. Need to figure out how that works. Gonna go over here. I'm gonna follow Stidian because he knows what he's doing.
I will not hold back.
Where's the... Oh, there it is. I'm like, where's the treasure coffer? Materia. All the times I actually want items to raise my item level. Are we actually doing like underwater? Oh, I was gonna say, it would have been nice to do like an actual underwater segment in a dungeon. You go down to?
This will hurt.
Oh. A ring of casting, of course.
Got you! Be gone!
That is a lot of reinforcements. There we go. Oh. Forward. There you go.
This will hurt. You underestimate me!
I will not hold back!
Alright, that should help a lot because now that that thing's gone, we only get these things.
This will hurt.
Come on.
Gloves are on.
There we go. All right, who is our next target? Whee! I was fine where I was.
mine!
Let's fix that. There we go.
Be gone!
I misread the tank buster thing. I looked at it differently. I'm like, wait, that's a stack. I'm like, oh wait, no, that's a tank. Fine. Going down. Hi, giant enemy.
This will hurt!
Alright, now I can just swap to singles. There we go.
Be gone! Got you!
I'm never gonna get anything good from these. Hello there.
This will hurt!
Almost. There we go.
Together, we shall overcome this.
I will not hold back!
Okey-dokey.
Make ready!
Might as hit the wrong button. Okay. All right then. Let's grab this treasure coffer. Come on. The carpet looks like spike holes. They are spike holes. Okay, good to know. How do I control it? I am controlling it, but nothing. Okay, I see. I just gotta not use the camera. Rotate him again. Oh, never mind. Let me get on the stack. Spikes. Ow, 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 ow. This is fine. Give me a lot of time to get my stuff back. Not as rusty as I thought. More stuff for me that I can't use at the moment.
What have we here?
'Tis not unlike a Hunnish alchemical furnace in design.
Well, there is one way we might find out.
Stop! You mustn't touch it.
Vritra! Oh, my apologies. Should I continue calling you Varshan?
You may address me as you wish. My nature is no longer a secret. Still, this is not a setting I imagined for our reunion. Surely you've not entered these ruins as common looters.
Would that we could deny your accusations, but I fear you're not far from the truth.
Great Vritra, might we beseech thee to explain the nature of this strange contrivance?
It was crafted by our alchemists at my behest, for the purpose of sealing something away.
I wasn't going to touch it, but you know, you stole
You and I will speak later.
Not the time for frivolity, my friend. Not the time.
This something of which thou speakest, might it be some manner of threat?
Perhaps I should simply show you. I have lifted the seal, if only for the moment, by an authority only I possess.
A planar fissure?
No, my friend. Small though it may be, this is a functioning gate into the void.
Wonder if the speak later thing will ever come to fruition. Void gates and fissures are much the same thing in practice, in the sense that both allow passage between the source and the 13th. The difference in terminology refers to the circumstances of their creation. Fissure is the incidental tear in the fabric between worlds, whereas the void gate is a product of deliberate action. I suspect this is the latter, judging by the elaborate mechanism put in place to control it. I think that our search for material riches will lead to this priceless discovery. That swirling emptiness, it puts me in mind of old friends, not to mention old foes.
I must admit, I am deathly curious to know how a void gate came to be hidden in the depths of these ruins.
To tell that tale, we must first peer far to the south, and even further into memory. An age 5 millennia passed when the Algan Empire sent an invading force to the shores of Meracidia. The southern people rallied around the commanding figures of Bahamut and Tiamat and fought fiercely to repel the would-be conquerors. With Bahamut's defeat, however, the tide turned against them. Desperate to seize any advantage, the Mercidians resorted to summoning primal entities. In response, Emperor Zande forged a covenant with the Cloud of Darkness, sovereign among the all-devouring denizens of the Void. Thus bolstered by icons on one side and Void Scent on the other, the two armies clashed in a battle of unspeakable carnage. So much death, so much loss.
I consider myself well versed in that period of history, yet you speak as one who witnessed it happen.
Indeed, I did. I heard Tiamat's roar of defiance and sped toward that war-torn land. Along with my sibling, Ashdaya. We dragons are not male or female as men are wont to classify, but elder sister is the closest a mortal tongue can come to describing what she meant to me. I was the last of our brood to hatch, and Ashdaya cared for me where my sire could not. Thus I was with her when Tiamat roared. I was with her when she journeyed south, and I was with her when she fought against the Void-sent hordes. Yet no matter how many of their vile fiends we cast down, more rose from the abyss to take their place. Faced with an unwinnable war of attrition, Ashdaya risked her all on a final gamble. She plunged through the Void Gate itself to strike at the root of their strength. I tried to follow in her wake, determined to lend what aid I could. But even as I came upon Alag's glittering tower, I saw the rift close behind her. And Ashdaya has been lost to us ever since.
I find I must retract my earlier claim of historical knowledge. Nowhere in the Crystal Tower's archives did I see mention of such noble sacrifice.
That does not surprise me. To Allagan eyes, it must have seemed as if a lone dragon, driven to madness, simply dove through the gate and did not return. For my part, I spent long years searching for the means to reunite with Ashdaya. Until I could search no more. Until Alag was dust, and the art to open a void gate large enough to accommodate a dragon forever lost.
Yet you have the beginnings of a gate right here, under the control of a harnessed device.
My discovery came before Radzat Han was founded. Though I scoured the lands for a method to cross the rift, it was beneath the sea that I chanced to find a natural planar fissure. It was, however, far too narrow to admit a worm's bulk. Only after our city rose upon the rock, and I could enlist the aid of our talented alchemists, did matters take a favorable turn. Their dedication was beyond reproach. Tirelessly, they worked to expand the fissure, and after decades of toil, it finally grew to a size that a child might pass through.
Not long ago, you told us that you called out to your kin, that Ashdaya's answer was silence. I suspect the conclusion to your tale is not a joyful one.
With hope in my heart, I used the simulacrum to cross the threshold. But no, I did not find her. What I found was a host of voidsent, clamoring around the opening they had sensed. 'Twas but a moment, but enough. I had no choice but to retreat and allow the portal to contract once more.
The gate was a threat to your people. You had to decide between endangering Razat Khan and abandoning your sister. And you chose the latter.
'Twas not that thy siblings scorned thy call. 'Twas that she was trapped beyond a barrier through which neither roar nor dragon may pass. Even now, in the desolate world of the 13th.
I can scarce imagine your pain, yet it was wise not to linger in that place. Too long a sojourn, and even a being of your power risks being warped into a creature of the void. You've seen this phenomenon before, when we stepped into the darkness. As did I. Were it not for Une and Doga, or Nero for that matter, we might never have made it home. Do you remember what happened to Nero? How his wounds allowed the Void's corruption to enter his body and twist his ether? Had it been allowed to progress much longer, I presume he would have been fully transformed.
Then there is little hope for Ashdaya.
Ah, no. I hadn't meant to. I speak only of possibilities. The scales of the First Brood are extraordinarily resistant to ethereal fluctuations. They are the protective talisman's core components after all, and even the corruption I described would struggle to overcome. Of course. With the warding scale in one's possession, one could conceivably survive a stay in the 13th without being warped by its energies.
Be that as it may, it is too late to rescue my sister. 5,000 years too late. And now countless others look to me for guidance and protection. So when I sensed intruders in the ruins, I came only to ensure that the gate remained closed. That, and to secure the treasure, of course. I wish only to forget the rest.
That was the accepted cutscene. So they managed not only to expand the fissure, but only manipulate it as one might a gate. Astonishing. Is there any chance I can learn more of how this feat was accomplished? I will tell you what I can. First, I must return to the High Crucible and arrange to replace the Guardians you so handily destroyed. Not due to leave the gate undefended. My apologies. Were we perhaps a touch zealous in our rush to uncover the vault's secrets? If the constructs can be repaired, we will be happy to offer our assistance. That may not be necessary. Much as I retain the spare vessels myself, we keep duplicate Guardians on hand for such eventualities. In any case, we should return to Razathan. Alright, and we're leaving the dungeon. Yep. Great camera view. Alright. I wonder what they're going to do with that. I mean, obviously, I don't really need to ask that since I'm probably going to learn something about it soon anyway, so... I promise we'll discuss the Void Gate further, but first I must attend to the matter of the Vault Sentinels. As your instruments have no doubt informed you, the Kapikulu has been reduced to so much scrap. There we go. Please bring a new one out of storage and see that's conveyed to its post along with some few lesser constructs. Was it tomb robbers? Fiends born in the Tower of Azat? My sisters did not tell me the blasphemy yet roams free. Why such guilty faces? Surely it wasn't you who are responsible for this. Oh. Well, the details aren't important. I shall see it done immediately. Oopsie. And with that, the vault will soon be secure once more. I believe you had questions. Quite a few, in fact. But I'd like to begin with the gate itself. It is still functional, yes? Indeed, which is why I saw it sealed with a chemically forged lock and warded with my magics. Such power must fall into the wrong hands. In truth, the primary reason for the vault's construction was to keep the gate hidden from the outside world. So much effort for such a little door. That little door you speak of leads to an abyss teeming with unspeakable horrors. That said, in its current state, it would only admit only the lowliest of void scent, and from this side, no man will be able to pass through. Oh man, I should think Alphino would fit, given the firm enough push. Physical size is only one consideration. The true restriction hinges upon the etheric density of the soul in transit. And yet you succeeded in expanding this diminutive portal and sending your simulacrum to the 13th. Thanks to my brilliant alchemist, I should have destroyed the anomaly when I found it, but instead I bade them devise a means to control it. After much experimentation, they accomplished the impossible. A method was conceived by which my magics could manipulate the fissure and transform it into a serviceable gate. But the process has long since been forgotten. Once I've given up searching for Azdaia, there is no need to preserve such esoteric and dangerous knowledge. And thus has the gate been laying dormant for years uncounted. Our own passage to the 13th was made relatively simple thanks to the Crystal Tower. An ancient mechanism channeled the tower's vast stores of energy to open the Void Gate, when bound by a covenant made with the Cloud of Darkness. Once that sovereign entity was being back, however, the covenant was broken, and the doorway severed from its connection to the Void. Theoretically, it would be possible to reconnect the gate by forging a new pact with another Void Scent, but such deals usually end in betrayal and death. In any case, we should attempt to gain an understanding of the Bounty Gate. Mayhap you could resume the search for your sister. As I already explained, I put those feudal hopes to rest centuries ago. The place and my duty is here now. I had meant to ask, what prompted you to search the vault in the first place? It was all Estinian's idea. See if the legends are true. As you have seen, the fabulous wealth from the stories is quite real, if not its rumored origin. I'm afraid I must assert a prior claim. I've been adding to that trove for years, little by little, but the time has come to spend it, that I might alleviate my people's suffering. We are of one mind. We had no intention of taking it for ourselves. Isn't that right, my friend? Your Excellency, would you object if I were to conduct a closer examination in the gate? I'll make no attempt to open it, of course. Oh, you and yours a debt that can never be repaid. Whatever boon you ask of me, you shall have it. You are most gracious. I shall take full advantage of your permission. For that I could join thee in thy study, but the Loppers will be anxious to receive my report. I beg my leave of you. And I must be off to Charlene as well. Just Crow was eager to speak with you about that request, so please come back to the annex as soon as you're able. Farewell for now. We can discuss my findings once I return. You'll not be rid of me so easily. Take the Chronicles of a New Era quest series Myth of the Realm. Speak with the fresh-faced student about the Odyssey Annex, accept the first quest. So side quests. Difficult part in all of this will be deciding how best to put these riches to use. You lend me your assistance in these deliberations. Anything to make up for the constructs we broke. Then think of it as your employment as recompense. Serve me as guest advisors and I'll consider the broken constructs paid for in full. Darius and I are into this together. I'll follow his example. Meanwhile... Since the breaching of the gate was not instigated from this side, thus thrown open from the other. I too felt it. A rare occurrence, yes, but such a tiny portal is beneath our notice. There are more pressing matters at hand. An opportunity is upon us, the coming of which we have waited for nigh on 10,000 years. We dare not let it slip our grasp. Yet we must not underestimate he who bested the cloud of darkness. Even restrained by a covenant, the cloud is no feeble wisp to be dispersed by some flesh and blood mortal. Bah, let them come. I will drown the world and watch this fleshling gasp for breath in his final moments. His zeal is admirable, but forget not our cause. Think back on our struggles beneath the sunless sky. Remember why we cede not our will to fight. It's time we set the war in motion and win redemption for our star. Well, I'm definitely not worried about where they're taking the story from here. They definitely have stuff planned. Shall we begin? If we are to spend the treasure wisely, then we must first determine which groups would benefit most from monetary assistance. Some of my citizens may find it intimidating to speak with the Satrap directly, so I would ask that you act in my stead. Serious, you are to visit Akali in Yillimad. Speak with Masha and his people and listen to their grievances. Soon, I bid you do the same at Palaka's stand, and I'll be conducting my own inquiries of the giant Gaul grounds. Once I believe you are ascertaining the needs of the populace, we can reconvene at Megaduda. They really want me to keep going to a place that I can't warp to. And away we go. It's okay. You may be level 80 and still aggroing to me, but you're not worth it. Okie dokie. Oh, Zurius. I'm so glad to see you return unharmed. You finished with the boat then? Anything the village desperately needs? I suppose Gazal's loss hit us the hardest. I've been trying to find buyers for my fish, but although I sell a few here and there, it's so much more difficult than it was before. Everyone's still struggling to rebuild their lives. For now, we're just banding together as best we can. So they just need a place to sell their stuff. And now let's go to the other place and find out what they need. I was just here. Why couldn't I just start here? Whatever. Greetings and welcome, traveler. If this is your first visit to that, no, it's not. Then you must try my special armor lazi. Its refreshing zest cannot be beat. What could such a wonder cost, you wonder? Normally I part with 3 bottles for a generous price of 19,800 gil. I have that money. But for you, I'm willing to go as low as even 10,000. You'd be practically stealing from me. I am not Estinian. Estinian, who is this? You're the one who was with that spear-toting fellow. Well, you can hardly blame a man for trying. The world may no longer be on fire, but we're still sifting through the ashes, so to speak. Sister, spare me. We might as well have that ugly tower back for the scant few travelers we see these days. I myself barely have the coin to buy at local prices, I tell you. I didn't charge the odd adventurer a small fortune for afternoon tea. I'd be scavenging for scraps in the street. People just need better ways of getting money, is from what I see so far. What about the guild stuff? How fares the port? Well, it's in shambles, isn't it? The trade routes are open once more now that the danger has passed, certainly. No small number of merchants had to sell their ships to make ends meet in the short term. Add that to the sailors we lost in the final days, and it's little wonder the flow of exports is no more than a pitiful trickle. If Zal and his consortium were still with us, I'm sure we had found a way to turn our fortunes around. Now that the man who's got things done... Now that was the man that got things done, the gods rest his soul. Okay, to the Megaduda. Alright, and away we go. I get to warp to places. we go. Ah, my advisor's return. I just made it back myself. Why do you retain this vessel now that your true form is known? You could have flown across the island in a fraction of the time. Be that as it may, the sight of a massive creature descending from the sky may be startling to say the least. There are a few places I can enter comfortably without risk of flattening some carter's stall. Fair enough. As for my inquiries, the people of Palakistan were unanimous in their reply. They are surviving. Resources were stretched to the limit when refugees were pouring in, but they persevered with some assistance from Ulamad. From what I understand, they have always been an independent community, hunters and foragers and the like, and I was assured that the jungle provides for the needs for the most part. Palakistan has weathered a disaster better than most, it seems. I myself heard good news and bad. The quarrymen were cautiously optimistic, having just sold a full wagon of giant skull to the foreign trader. But such visitors are few and far between. Compared to our best years, the weight of stone leaving Thavnir has been light indeed. Our nation is small and isolated, its prosperity dependent on a steady stream of exports. We must identify any obstacles to the flow of trade so we may begin working to remove them. Tell me, what did you learn in Akile in Ulamard? I see. Without a dedicated buyer, the average fisherman must struggle to offload his daily catch. Which is why I believe we should first address the lack of ships and shortage of able-bodied sailors in Ulamad. I'm reminded of a child I spied as I went back to the palace. His father lost at sea when the beast sunk their vessel. So many variations of the same tragic tale repeated over and over. So many lives lost. Enough grief to drown in if we let ourselves be overcome, but we will not. Serious, Justinian, I'll consider perspectives you brought me, and devise a plan to help my people confront this adversity. Come, I'd like you to be in attendance when I announce the proposal to my assembled functionaries.
I thank you for your attendance. The riches the Radiant Host have retrieved were hoarded in Alzadal's name. A fortune I set aside for a future day of need. And lo, that day hath come. May it aid our wounded city in reclaiming its vibrancy and vigor. In better times, I would leave such a task to our capable Ahawan. God's rest his soul. Finding myself bereft of his counsel in the here and now, I will assume the responsibilities of mine office directly. Firstly, the treasure shall be sold for more convenient currency. Thence, invested into the trading port of Yedlamad. Our merchants must have their operations restored, their ships rebuilt. Commerce must flow once more. None were spared the tragedy of the final days. Of this, I am well aware. But an absence was created by the loss of Khalsa's consortium. And by filling it, we provide new means for our fishermen, our artisans, and others to bring their wares to distant markets.
And what of the children who were left without family to care for them?
That is a concern which weigheth heavily upon my mind. A simple gift of coin will soon be exhausted, leaving these young souls adrift on the fringes of our society. Nay, a proper solution is needed, one which doth guarantee their welfare for years to come. Thou hast surely seen how other nations rise to meet this challenge, adventurer. What dost thou deem the wisest course?
That, they give me one choice or it takes a village. This one? Taxes levy them on trade profits.
I see. We create a reliable source of revenue. Let us put this idea into practice. A contract shall be written, requiring all who receive of Al-Zadal's treasure to commit a portion of their future earnings towards the running of an orphanage. Now, such an influential policy is deserving of a worthy name.
Why not honor one of your most successful merchants?
A successful merchant? I believe I see thy reasoning. Khalsa should be remembered, not as the blasphemy which terrorized Thavne, but as a hard-working and generous man who brought much wealth to our shores. Do any among you object to this proposition? Many here lost loved ones to the beasts.
In that time of strife, any one of us could have broken. Any one of us may have been taken by despair. When I think of Khalsa, I feel no hatred. Only a stinging regret that we could not save him as well. Isn't that right, men?
This bodes well for that boy. Mirag, was it? Perhaps he can cut ties with that shady peddler.
Then let it be done. Henceforth, this initiative shall be known as the Khalsa Foundation. Nabdeen, thou art to assemble a patrol and ensure that no child in this city liveth in squalor. Clerks, see to the management of our funds and make haste. Our citizens must not suffer a day more than is necessary.
Dragon and man,
Side by side in pursuit of a brighter morrow. I'm reminded of Ishgard.
I hate political meetings. I'm never good at like determining what's actually good choices for that. Not that there was many to begin with. Right. Thank you for putting forth Khazal's name. Those who lives the rich will take comfort in seeing his legacy honored. Oh, forgive me for not speaking sooner. I bear a message from Archon Y'shtola. She asked that you meet her at the High Crucible at your earliest convenience. Understood. Thank you. Y'shtola must have finished her study of the Void Gate. Shall we hear what she has to say then? I'll go with you. I thought the Satrap would be too busy setting up the Foundation. My clerks have been well-oiled cogs of this administration since before Akwan assumed the office. I understand what needs to be done. And I am curious to learn what conclusions your Archon have reached considering the gate's unique construction. As you wish. Allow me to lead the way, Your Excellency. Alright then. And I could just walk it. By walk it, I mean teleport like 20 feet away and then walk the rest of the way. All right.
Right, here we all are.
You discovered something new.
I took a closer look at that device. I was able to determine how it keeps the Void Gate sealed, but not how it might instead be employed to expand the opening. For that, I would need to reference the technique developed by Vritra's alchemists, no records of which appear to have survived the intervening years.
We know this, so why have you sent for us? Have you learned aught of value or not?
Patience, good sir. One must introduce the subject before launching into specifics. From what we understand, travel between worlds is accomplished by passing through the nebulous rift which exists between them. Picture, if you will, the moment you were called to the first. You touched a focus of some kind to help the Exarch pinpoint your location. His summoning spell then channeled the energies of the Crystal Tower to begin your journey to his world. The magics tore a hole in the walls separating source and shard, and cast you into the intervening nothingness. In that place, the laws of nature hold no sway. Yet even through this realm of temporal and spatial instability, you were borne safely to your destination in the first. The feat that guided you across such an unimaginable distance, both physical and metaphorical, was nothing short of a miracle.
What of the many voidsent found in the source? Who guides them here, and how?
An excellent question. Though there are several methods by which the Void's denizens might intrude upon our world, the rituals of summoning are the most typical. For example, let us consider the Gargoyle, a creature of middling power. To call upon such an entity, the prospective summoner must force open a void gate. The portal lasts but a moment and is relatively small, allowing only an imp or other lesser being to squeeze through with their physical body intact. Our more powerful gargoyle, however, is too large for that. Creating a gate big enough for him would require vast amounts of energy, far beyond the reserves of any one mortal practitioner. Instead, 'tis far more common to bring over only the entity's soul. We had a taste of that ourselves when a certain exarch dragged us to the First. And just as our bodies remained in our world, the Voidsent's physical form is left behind in the 13th. Once at its destination, the summoned soul is granted a temporary shell to inhabit. In the gargoyle's case, a stone effigy has proven a suitable vessel.
Wait. You said that Voidsent must be called here deliberately by someone in the source, reeled in like a fisherman with his catch.
Exactly. For a being to navigate the chaos of the rift, with or without form, there must needs be a guiding agent on the other side.
When the hordes poured forth from Alag's Great Gate, it was the technologists who drew them through. Though to my knowledge, planar fissures are in essence natural passages between our world and the void, which require no such guidance to traverse. Why is only the boundary between the source and the 13th so fragile? So much so that it often tears open of its own accord.
I believe solving that mystery is key to understanding travel between the source and its reflections.
And how do you intend to get your answers?
No. The danger is too great.
Perhaps. But what some call danger, others think of as adventure.
Were you not listening to my tale? Never mind that the means to expand the gate has been lost to the ages. Even could you force the portal wide enough, you would be greeted by an army of murderous horrors the very instant you step through.
I assure you I was most attentive. And I agree that to go alone would be certain death. But if I were to bring along one who has already braved the 13th and humbled the Cloud of Darkness, well, I imagine my chances would be much improved.
Company actions are available again. Count me in.
I had a feeling you might say that. Once again, I put my life in your ever-reliable hands. That said, as much as I would like to march straight back to the Void Gate, there is the small matter of being unable to open it without the Satrap's personal authority.
As I've said before, I will grant you and yours any boon you choose to name, provided it does not endanger my people.
You have my word that we will take every precaution. Not a single void scent will be allowed to threaten Radzat Han, assuming we manage to expand the portal in the first place.
You have a plan.
Actually, I had hoped you might help us with that. I presume the alchemists you retained supplied you with some explanation of their methodology.
That they did. House Daimir was overseeing the project.
Daimir. Ah, yes. The family associated with the great work.
I did not fully comprehend the theory, but their research began with a void scent which had slipped through the fissure. After a thorough examination, they created an arcane simulacrum possessed of similar qualities. A man-made void scent, if you will. It was apparently indispensable in their efforts to enlarge the gate.
A man-made void scent?
Yes. Being great admirers of the Archons, House Daimir submitted detailed notes to Charlene's official committee. They expected praise and accolades for their simulacrum, and were thus devastated to be informed that their work had been classified as prohibited material.
If that's true, then those notes might still be stored in a forbidden archive somewhere. Not Google, of course, since that library had yet to be built. Which leaves us with...
With Graha's place? Favorite place to sneak around.
Indeed. Numenon's restricted stacks may very well hold a copy. In which case, I say we head directly to Charlene.
Unless you anticipate needing help to reach the high shelves, I see myself being of little use. Go on ahead. I still need to find Mirad and tell him about the Khalsa Foundation.
Let us be on our way as well.
They are resolved to venture into the void. Do I sit idly by?
Once again, say with gusto, to the library. order to enter Numenon's restricted archives with a minimum of fuss, then we must secure the permission of the forum. First, however, we shall need to enlist the cooperation of a member to approach the matter on our behalf. You think might be inclined to assist us? No one springs to mind? What about Scarlark forget how to say that name. Monteshane? He did come to Graha's defense during the inquiry after all. This settled. Let's head to the phenomenon and see if he's willing to help us once more. Alright, and away we go. I'm taking the weirdly long way around. Apprenticed to Master Montoya at the age of 7, labored under her tutelage for a full decade. Never had a chance to attend the studium. Neither did Thancred, as I recall. Soon after Master Louisoix took him off the streets, he was put in the care of another Archon. He was rigorous and practical education in the arts of espionage and survival. I sometimes wonder what my life would have been like had I pursued studies here instead. Should I wonder as well? Oh, never mind me. It's just an idle thought. Alright, so the far door over here. Just jump over all the desks. Ah, visitors, and quite esteemed ones at that. What may I do for you? I forgive the intrusion, Scarlark. We were hoping you might help us secure permission to enter Numenon's restricted archives. Oh, no for a raise into stacks this time, huh? I applaud this newfound sense of propriety, but yet in all this wide world of comparative sincerity, what so compares to disturbed revolt of forbidden wisdom? Like how they had me say something for a moment, then N'Shtola just immediately took over. It's like, let me go into that a little bit more detail. Fascinating. I had no idea such a technique existed. I would have been surprised if you had. If my assumption is correct, the research left behind by Asdaemir has been laying dormant in Charlene's archives for many centuries. And if you unearthed this research, what then? Surely you don't intend to cross over into the void. This, in fact, is precisely what we intend. To what end, pray tell? The relevant method of traversing the rift, for one, that I might keep my word to a distant friend. Sentiment aside, I have journeyed to the end of existence. I have heard, felt, and thought endlessly about the truth of our world and the echo of its future. And yet I wanted to understand everything, to unravel it all down to its very last secret. What scholar worthy a name would force open a void gate or two if a grand revelation was the promised reward? Marvelous. An audacious proposal worthy of Master Montoya herself. After hearing the wise and the wherefores, I for one do not believe you would use the knowledge for ill. See no reason not to present your request for the forum's consideration. Although your petition would be better received if you also had the support of another well-placed acquaintance. A Master Fortunal, of course. You hardly ignore the earnest request from his dear children's most treasured comrades. I was hesitant to approach him directly, but there's no denying that having Master Fortunal on our side would tip the balance in our favor. Very well. We'll pay a visit to Levier Estate and plead our case. Oh, one last thing before you go. I would consider it a personal favor if you might share with me the discoveries you make in the void. My appetite for knowledge is every bit as insatiable as yours, I wager, so if you can see your way into indulging an old man's curiosity. Of course, Skylark. Be sure to pass on any revelations. Now we gotta go all the way to the other side of the town. You think there'd be more talking actions? Guess not. Ah, Master Azurius, Mistress Astola, how may I be of service? When to speak of Master Fortunal, is he home by any chance? Yes, the Master is in residence. I shall inform him that he has guests. Oh well, Millians would invite you inside for tea. I assume this is not a social visit. You have some matter of import to discuss? Then pray proceed. You have my full attention. Well, I suppose I should praise you for following the proper protocols this time around. Skylark Montachane expressed much the same sentiment, I assure you. Will not attempt to circumvent the form's authority again, unless it's absolutely necessary, of course. Of course. You understand that the restricted archives are restricted for good reason, yes? If no pressing need exists, then why risk the consequences of employing this forbidden knowledge? Poor brother who misses his sister. She was his guardian and his friend, a selfless hero who crossed the river between worlds to save her homeland from horror and suffering. But the brother has given up on thoughts of reunion. He spends his efforts elsewhere, watching over a people yet healing from the flames of the final days, loyal to his duty while betraying his longing in his heart. It's no vital mission, perhaps, reuniting these siblings, but it seems a worthy cause to pursue all the same. As one who feared losing his own loved ones and spent years in research to prevent it, surely you appreciate how painful such a separation must be. Reflections are still very much a mystery to us. Offering to share your experiences in the first should constitute a fair exchange for our cooperation. Do not celebrate just yet. The forum must still be convinced. I'll add your request to the list of today's deliberations and deliver a decision to you at the Baldashian Annex. right, now to the Baldeshian Annex. So we got a little bit more to go. Where we're going, we don't use the stairs. Still no stairs. So what did the Forum decide? To put it bluntly, Master Matoya has burned some bridges here in Charlian, and salted the earth for good measure. It became clear that her student was the petitioner in question, but no few members voiced their discontent. Then the chamber was reminded, in no uncertain terms I might add, of the incredible debt we owe to you and your companions. That served to silence the grumbles and stiffen a few spines, and it was agreed that allowing you entry to the archives was the least we could do in return. That is wonderful news. Thank you both for speaking on our behalf. Yes, well, as I'm sure you're aware, this permission was not extended lightly. Forbidden knowledge is to be treated with the utmost caution, and there will be repercussions if it is not. Wish you well in your endeavor, and bid you good day. Never the same, that one. Uncompromising. Aye, but that very stoicism was exactly what Charlie needed to guide it through not one but two exoduses. That went rather well, I think. As a child, I dreamed up any number of schemes for getting my hands on those forbidden tomes. Now I can simply walk in through the door. Our focus will be finding the House Demir's research notes, of course, but the thought of so much knowledge at my disposal has me feeling a little giddy. You'll be heading directly to the archives from here, I presume. You presume it correctly. And you want to speak with the index page when you arrive. It's been instructed to grant you access to the restricted section. Excellent. Once again, we thank you for all your help. That was my pleasure, believe me. May you find the knowledge you seek. Let's find out what we find out, shall we? To the library! Oh yeah, I gotta go up a hill. I forgot about that part. Can I just cheese the hill? Kinda. Oh. Fine. I'll use the stairs. Or not. Yes. Oh. Aha! I use the railing. I think this set of instructions I laughingly imagined may actually exist, but yalms away from where you found me napping. If I'd known Azadal's exploits sooner, I might well could save myself days of research. Even a children's book might have pointed me in the right direction. To achieve the impossible, one must needs be flexible in mind and look beyond conventional wisdom. Lesson I already learned, but clearly not taken to heart. Alright, index page. Bring me to the forbidden section where it'll probably be a cutscene. Archon Ishtola and guest identified. And guest. Do you wish to proceed into restricted archives? Follow me if you would. Watch your step, and please note that the use of naked flames is discouraged.
If House Damia's notes are to be found anywhere, it will be here. Let us begin.
Time to read. Start off with the sparklies. Today in a world not my own, I met the most beautiful void-born creature. She was so unlike her ravenous brethren. Eyes bladed not with hunger, but trembling. A candle's flame threatening to flicker out at any moment. I wonder if she's even the proper word. Sex distinction seems inconsequential, insignificant even. All that matters is love I feel for this exquisite transcendent being. Though your attempt to read more does not seem to be the volume you're seeking. I found porn. Okay. Weighty tome. In the year 1564 of the 6th astral era, the Amalja summoned Ifrit, their patron god. Council described the being as a gigantic lizard-like being with upon command of fire respect magics. If we consider that primal summoning is an act fueled by faith and prayer, it is unsurprising, if not expected, that the resulting deiform entity should manifest the appearance and powers which is attributed by his worshippers. What then might emerge from the ether should one believe in Almighty Omniscience attempt to the same ritual? The scholar himself grace us with his presence, or some embodiment of divine sagacity. Could this man-made god truly be all-knowing? And if it were, whence would such knowledge arise? I myself have so many questions concerning the nature of the ancient world. If still a spell to transform me back to the days of old, could I instead summon and possess of an encyclopedia wisdom of every age? I have no means to verify his pronouncements. How could one be certain they were true? Your mind spins with possibilities discussed there, and this does not seem the value you're seeking. Let's see. What this leather-bound log? The following pages detail an advanced method of manipulating rift-spanning apertures as devised by Nahashan, the 9th patriarch of House Demir. We present these research notes to the faculty of Charlene Studium as well as a token of our friendship and expression of our balanced admiration. Here to have a look at the forbidden volume you seek. Surely we need to make the final confirmation. I read like the footnotes of a book. I found book. Book. That's something you'd like to show me, do you? My apologies. I flipped open but a single book and was completely absorbed by its contents. Book. Well done, Azures. I think you may have found our prize.
Yes, the ether signature is unmistakable. I've felt the traces of House Damia's resonance many times at the Great Work. Time to see what all the fuss was about. Among the ranks of the Voidsent, there exist entities with the power to call forth their brethren from beyond. The species known as Atomos, however, is uniquely prodigious in this regard. From its distended maw, it can expel an endless procession of void-born creatures, a talent which sorely tested the Radiant host in its battles against these abominations. Surmising that the entity itself was acting as a void gate, we endeavored to capture a small specimen and subsequently examine its physiological structure. Our findings revealed that the Atomos had absorbed a planar fissure into its own flesh, which it could expand at will into a functioning gate. Upon further analysis, we identified an ethereal wave pattern emitted during this process. A pattern we were able to emulate by passing crystal-stored ether through a specially designed prism. We proceeded to embed said prism into an arcane simulacrum, thus completing what we have dubbed our artificial Atomos. How could I have been so blind to the possibilities? This species, not to mention its ability to summon Voidsent, has been discussed among academics for years now. Just before the advent of the 7th Umbral Calamity, we received reports of Atomos sightings from every corner of Eorzea. Surely you've at least heard the tales. And still, House Daemir went and built a mock Atomos of their very own. I'm not surprised the Archons consigned their work to a restricted archive. It was no easy task, but at last we've unearthed the volume we've been searching for. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tempted to stay longer. See what other forbidden titles might be lurking on these shelves. Ah, but that would be abusing the very special privilege we've been granted now, wouldn't it? Better not.
As much as I would love to start crafting the Atomos, I'm afraid this is far outside my field of expertise. Fortunately, we know the Hanish alchemist would be delighted to involve herself in our House of Daemir project. Our business here is concluded. For a moment, please pass on our regards to the forum. Your message will be conveyed. Should you wish to indulge in more forbidden literature, I will be here. Patron mode disabled. Security mode engaged. Anyone can help us. Nidana can. Say we return to Daemir and look for her at the great work. To the great work. Shola tells me you're pursuing a most fascinating study, and that you want me to be a part of it. I have no doubt you'll be interested. The research log should speak for itself. Will it now? Why, this is Market House Daemir. Never even knew such a work existed. You should. It was sequestered in Numenon's restricted archives, after all. It was. That means every word within is forbidden knowledge. Forbidden tome filled with forbidden research, and you put it right into my unsuspecting hand? I can hardly wait to read it. To think that Dimir were developing such marvelous techniques so long ago. How many innovations have been lost over the centuries, I wonder? Now that you glance over the notes, what say you be helping us build a new mock Atomos? I say yes, 1,000 times yes. Working on a Dimir project has been that even redoubtable scholars of Charlene trembling in their sandals, and alchemists of the great work could resist. You're a woman after my own heart. I suppose I should ask, what do you mean to do with this big mound of similar chrome once we built it? So there's a secret void gate instilled in the ruins at the bottom of the bounty. Today's a day of revelations indeed. If the purpose of our man-made Atomos is to expand this hidden portal, then I would need to see it for myself, I think. Manipulating rift-spanning apertures is not the sort of thing you want to attempt without first taking into account every single factor. Then by all means, accompany us to the vault. I plan to lead us back there shortly once we finish gathering the components I require. Charlie and his Marcus provided raw aquamarine and pure water crystals. I might need help obtaining a small quantity of astrally infused water. For such a liquid, you need to go no further than Fountain Maya. Ascetics of once favored the place for their meditations, and the water which pools there is now known to enliven the flow of ether. That sounds perfect. If you would be so kind as to fill the flask at the pool, I will petition Vitra to join us. The idea I have in mind won't amount to much without his authority to command the void gate. Shall we be about it then? Be back here anon. I guess this is a speak later bit. I am putting work into doing random garbage work. Just grab some water, ethereally infused water from here specifically. How far am I going? Wow, I'm going far. Okay, I'm gonna warp here instead. All right. This makes sense. I had a feeling I would have got stuck in there a little bit. Really? Really? Fine. There. Back to the great work I go. Literal fetch quest. Do you have that flask for me? Yes, I do. Bam. Yes, this should suffice. Thank you. Void theory. Look who I came across. The student seemed to need a diversion, and we, in turn, may need of his lance. Right then, now that our little party is assembled, let us make our way to the ruins. We have need of Miss Macho's boat again? At this time, once you still inform me of our destination, I arrange for a vessel to be ready at Akali. Your Excellency is ever the gracious host. Shall we? They walk that way. I go this way. I missed the bridge. I missed the bridge. All right. Where can I get up at? Can I get up here? Aha. Every time. That's a bigger fall than I thought it was going to be. That's fine. All right, time to go. Yes.
The ruins alone were impressive enough, but I never dreamed such a treasure lay hidden in the depths of the bounty. It may have been helpful to know this device existed, Your Excellency.
My apologies. The gate was a secret I shared with none but my closest advisors. I feared for what might happen should those with ill intentions learn of its existence.
What is it you're doing now?
There's something I wish to verify. The NOAA reports claim that a short stint into the void carries little risk of etheric imbalance. Should one suffer an injury, however, or if one's expedition drags on longer than intended, that risk becomes significantly greater. Graha theorized that a warding scale would confer protection from the void's corrupting influence. But I would prefer to test that hypothesis before we set foot in the 13th ourselves.
So, this is an experiment of sorts?
Yes, an experiment. Tell me, how would you go about testing the efficacy of the warding scale?
I might as well go myself.
And how would you do that? The gate is still too small for any of us to pass through.
Estinian is correct, which is why I've elected to send a familiar in our stead.
I mean, it was obvious. I just wanted to see if I could go myself.
Now, a lowly imp can navigate a fissure, no matter how narrow. Which means an arcane entity of similar stature should be able to manage the same. I hadn't wanted it to come to this, but no other familiars will do, I'm afraid.
I mislike the sound of that. What manner of fiend does she mean to summon?
From ocean rise and cloudbank form, from mountain spring and rainfall storm, from river flow and life be born. Water, water, froth and foam!
Ready your arms. I fear she's been possessed.
Oh, come now. That was adorable.
Though not my first choice. These familiars I conceived of as a child have the best chance of fitting through the gate. I only wish my younger self had considered a more dignified ending to the creation ritual. In any case, these two should serve us well. This one will bear a warding scale. And when they return from the 13th, we can observe how the talisman, or absence thereof, has affected the progress of the Void's corruption. If I could impose upon you to open the gate, Your Excellency?
Ah, yes, of course.
We should also be wary of void scent slipping through while we conduct our experiment. Estinian, you are to keep Nadana safe from harm.
As you say.
You had best be on your guard as well.
Froth and foam!
Oh, are you volunteering to join the Nixies? I could shrink you down, you know. Let us begin, shall we? Nixies, into the void. I think we've waited long enough. Nixies, return to my side. Thank you, little one. You did well.
Oh, the poor thing. Its essence has been irrevocably warped.
We're out of time! I must reseal the Void Gate.
They're coming through!
In the name of Alzadal III, I bar this door unto the void!
Well, that was a sharp lesson in the dangers of void gates.
And what of our experiment? I'd say the results speak for themselves.
The unprotected Nixie has suffered extensive etheric corruption. As Nidana observed, it's well on its way to becoming a void scent. The one merged with the talisman, however, appears unaffected. I sense no changes to its equilibrium. Rest now, little ones.
Graha's theory was correct, then.
So it would seem. But while our second familiar was untouched by void energies, the talisman itself shows signs of degradation. It was, of course, originally designed to shield the soul from primal tempering. It stands to reason that etheric corruption of a different sort would affect it differently. We may need to modify the warding scale's design to account for the 13th's uniquely unstable ether.
You've said much of the Void's instability, but my imagination fails me. What manner of place is this broken world?
Ah, my apologies. I forget that not all of us spend our days sequestered in dusty archives. The 13th is a reflection of the source that was drowned in a flood of darkness. In Emmett Selk's own words, this tragedy was a result of the Ascians' attempts to force a rejoining. They erred in their haste, and made of that world a useless void. And what of your own experience? Will you tell us of what you observed during Noah's expedition? I can picture it now. The sunless, Stygian expanse, infested with legions of ether-starved monstrosities. A void in every sense of the word.
What you have described in such lurid detail is exactly why I hesitate to encourage you.
Worry not, great Vritra. Our journey into the 13th is but the first leg of a longer voyage. A voyage that shall lead us to other reflections, to new mysteries and discoveries. And I mean to be there every step of the way. But first I must focus on refining the warding talisman.
Then I can begin work on constructing an artificial Atomos. Or I could if I had the relevant manuals to hand. Might I be so bold as to request access to the Satrap's family archives? Your Excellency?
Oh, yes. That can be arranged. I will speak to my officials upon our return.
We will see you back in the city then.
Once Nadana succeeds in replicating the Mach Atomos, this door to the 13th will be ours to open. Will you be crossing the threshold alongside us? I realize this is more in my endeavor than yours. To be honest, I'm no interested in visiting the Void myself. Might we discuss this later? There's something I must do first. Why does everyone insist on being so secretive? At least had good reason for not wanting to explain my Nixie ritual. Shall we proceed with our other preparations then? As you saw, the warding scale can be effective at protecting the bearer from other sources of etheric corruption. Nevertheless, the talisman's durability will need to be improved if it is to withstand Void's influence for a prolonged period of time. And I think that the problem we can address without involving the brilliant but busy scientists who created it. But who do we know who excels at this kind of structural augmentation? Garland Ironworks? An excellent suggestion. As I recall, Sid himself is no stranger to the Void and its volatile energies. With his experienced hand at the helm, I have every confidence that the Ironworks can strengthen the warning scale. Let's visit their operation in Rogger's Reach and commission their best and brightest. Did they just warp me there? I'm totally okay with that. Away we go. Their best and brightest. How about a junior Ironworks engineer? Azure, what brings you to the Ironworks? You have a commission for you and your president, actually. Some means available. Master Sid, certainly. I'll see if he has a moment free. Pleasure as always. I hear you have a job for us. Heading into the Void to find a lost dragon. That sounds almost pedestrian compared to your last adventure. Honestly, I don't know if you could say anything that would surprise me after Medion and that bloody mess. Alright, let's take a look at this talisman of yours. You said there were signs of degradation? Seems some manner of corrosion has set in around a scratch on its surface, much as the Void's corruption seeped into Nero through his wounds. In which case, our best bet may be to simply prevent the scale from being damaged in the first place. And how might we achieve that? We have a coating agent for strengthening trinkets and the like. I'd be wary of applying any compound which might upset the scale's delicate chemical balance. Far safer to address it in armor. We'll construct a protective casing, one utilizing metal alloys of high ethereal conductivity as an NMP of the talisman's primary function. A suit of armor, as you said. Has compiled data on the 13th, so I'll have him pitch in with the design just to be sure. Only we're in such an ordeal to convince him to follow our safety protocols. I swear, I never had such a reckless employee. In any case, we may need some time to untake all the particulars. Understandable. Both know how busy your schedule is, and the final result will be doubtless worth the wait. The hard part will be ducking Jessie and her constant barrage of demands while we sneak out doing the fun stuff. We'll see what we can do. I think we can leave the rest in Sid's capable hands. Let's return to the great work and see how Nidana is getting on with the Mach Atomos. Back to the great work we go. Oop. Oop. Oh, they're not over there, they're over here.
Hey, Stola. The adjustments are going well, I hope?
'Tis a lengthy process, but the end is in sight, yes.
That's wonderful news. I myself had some good fortune searching through the Satrap's private records. What I found was a transaction log dated around the same period as when Al-Zadal's legacy was built. It included a purchase list of highly exclusive alchemical components. And I knew I'd discovered the key to making the artificial atomos. I then visited the High Crucible to commission the materials. After I'd explained my requirements, I was beset by volunteers insisting I allow them to help with the entire project.
The usual reaction to someone forcing open a void gate is to run for the hills. Harnish academics certainly are a different breed.
The alchemists of old were cut from a similar cloth. The unknown held no fear for them. Indeed, they were ever eager to seek new knowledge, regardless of the danger.
And were you not also fearless? Heedless even, in your determination?
My sire entered his dormancy before I was hatched. And so it was Ashdaya who kept my eggs safe and warm. It created a bond between us. Even long after I learned to fend for myself, I rarely strayed from her side. She was my guardian, my sister, my dear companion. And not a single day passes that I do not mourn her absence. No matter how deep the darkness, I would not surrender my search. I promised myself the time would come when we would once more take to the skies together. But I am satrap now.
The Radiant Host is here to serve, Your Excellency.
Nabdeen, what is this about?
Sir Estinian told us of your predicament. For centuries you have protected Rads at Han, never showing your true self, hiding behind a curtain and living only in service to the people. Your dedication meant more to us than your deceit, and so did we accept you as our rightful ruler. After all that you have sacrificed for this nation, did you imagine we would begrudge you your heart's desire? We survived the final days.
We are a strong and proud people. We, the Radiant Host, will keep Thavnair safe in your absence.
I am grateful for your loyalty and for your encouragement. And yet...
Now you listen to me, Varshan. You are wearing that face, after all. As I have told you before, you are a little brother to us all. And if you are family, then so too is your sister. We are there for you if you need us. But do not ask us to sit by and watch while you abandon a sibling you have ached to rescue for millennia.
We will succeed in opening the way. It is only a matter of time. All you need do is prepare to step through to the other side.
Your Excellency, I wanted to thank you for building the orphanage. It means so much that my sister and I will have a place to be together, safe and happy. And I hope that you and your sister can be together again, too.
To protect them well, you must take heart.
Take heart and protect them well. Such were the words I once said to you. And here I stand, failing to live up to them. If my heart is torn, I am fit to protect neither Azure nor Radzatan. My people, I have come to a decision. Varshan will depart Thavnair for a time. My dragon self will remain in the palace, but only to conduct the satrap's most essential duties. While I am focused on controlling this vessel, there may be matters that escape my attention. I rely on you, my trusted friends, to watch over one another until I return.
Take care and fair fortune, little brother. Many tears would be shed should you come to harm.
I would not dare make you cry.
You surprise me, Estinian. For a lone wolf, you've shown an unusual degree of, shall we say, involvement in helping Vicho reach his conclusion. What's for the greater good? The worm's thundering sighs were keeping his citizens awake at night. Had travelers believing the palace racked by some unnatural storm. What of your own answer, then? You seem disinclined to venture into the void. When I was one with Nidhogg, his vengeful thoughts were my thoughts, his endless rage my rage. And soul-chilling grief he nursed for Tasker's death. I would not wish such agony upon a foe, let alone a friend and ally. If there's a chance we spare Reacher that pain, then I will follow you. Any other former scions we should call on? Rather not bother our comrades with aught less than the dire threats of the star. We four should be sufficient for our purpose. Now on to specifics. Unlike the first, where the flood of light was halted before its devastation was complete, the 13th may have been utterly submerged by darkness. My plan as such is to explore the void in stages, withdrawing to safety after each brief foray. It could be more convenient if we had some manner of base camp nearer to the gate itself. When the palace chambers should serve, come let's reconvene outside Megaduda. To the Megaduda once again. And so we will require suitable accommodations. Might we take something available for our guests? All the chambers are presently hosting the great amounts of treasure we carried out of the vault. Once Foundation activities begin in earnest, however, we can redistribute the trove and make room for R2 ready for habitation. Good. Please inform me when you completed the arrangements. As you heard, we'll have you settle in Megaduda in due time. As ever, you are most gracious, Your Excellency. You risk yourselves to aid me in my search for Azure. Providing comfortable quarters is the least I can do. Only wish we knew more about our destination. The gods only know how long our explorations might possibly take, what chances of success they might possibly be. Succeed or fail, I'm grateful for you for convincing me to make the attempt. On that note, I'll return to the great work and lend what help I can to Nidana. If you've preparations to make a reventure into 13th, now is the time. All I need is my armor and my lance. Perhaps I'll train with the Radiant Host to pass the time before we depart. You know what this means to me, Azurius, but my purpose need not consume you as well. You're headed for another world. Find what joy you can in the experience, for you are a traveler, an adventurer at heart, this I know.
This world, bereft of saviors.
That paths unwalked, adventurers spur, pulses quicken, spirits stir. And that is Newfound Adventure. We have a little bit more until the next patch content comes out, but for now, that was a fun time. Almost 4 hours of fun time. These patches are about as big as I expected them to be. So next one will come eventually, and I will get on that one as soon as I can. I'm not going to take months this time around to get to it. And maybe I'll play this game more and actually be able to unlock flight in these places so I can get around a little bit quicker. No promises there because I said it many times over and I failed to do that every single time. So yeah, when that happens, that happens. So thank any and all of you for watching and have a good night.